Good evening for a tech test from World Conflict Zone. Let's get right into it. Let's start off in Washington, D.C. So, welcome to World Conflict Zone. This video is a test version for future videos. We offer content longs 2 times daily when news requires it. This is a test for visuals only as a tech test. Your feedback on the visual aspect is needed. Meanwhile, I am going to present some relevant news since you, the viewer, are taking the time to also watch this video. Your feedback on the visual aspect is re- really it's needed, so I have an idea of what your thoughts are. Okay, so as you can see, I can do 3D view, as well as I can switch it. I can move it around like this, which is really the one that I prefer. Okay, but please leave a comment below if this is more engaging and dynamic for you, the viewer, as we go through the news of the day. So now we're going to move on to Valde. So Putin spoke today at the Valde Forum, which is an event held every year. Putin covered items such as US, Gaza, NATO, Ukraine, and Russian culture and his status as a leader. Now let's move on to Munich International Airport. So, the airport that you're seeing right here, there was unidentified drones have been reported, and the airport has been shut down as of this evening. Moving on to Zaporizhia in Ukraine. So, Sky News is reporting that the Ukrainian armed forces, with intelligence support from NATO and the United States, is preparing a large scale drone and missile strike campaign, accompanied by a potential ground offensive against Kherson and this area in front of you. Now, meanwhile, since we're already here talking about Zaporizhzhia, the nuclear power plant continues to not have proper power. And at this point, really you're looking at another 8 days, and they need to get external power attached to the nuclear facility. Otherwise, you're going to start to have a situation, a potential nuclear disaster that, people are saying, and, that, if it's not taken care of, we might have a situation close to Chernobyl. Now, moving on, and speaking of Chernobyl, the cover building, as you can see right here, that protects the damage from the reactor that caused the meltdown in the 80s, has had no electricity. They have been running on backup diesel. However, this encasing is what protects the damage from, you know, and prevents a situation where uh, the damage that was created and the radiation that comes from that from leaking out. So that covering and the electricity that runs this covering, okay, is essentially compromised right now. And this is where I can test a little bit more of what's going on to give you a visual. So, as you can see right here, from a distance, you can see when I zoom in, there is the encasing right there. And right now, that casing isn't operational. And, there's rhetoric going on both sides of the fence here between Ukraine and Russia as far as who's to blame. But the bottom line is if they don't restore proper power, we're going to have a serious nuclear situation on our hand as far as radiation leak. So let's move on out of Chernobyl and let's move into Moscow. So so the gasoline shortage is starting to creep even closer to the capital, drying up all gas stations in the surrounding regions. According to sources, fuel supply disruptions have already begun in the Moscow region, with some gas stations operating with restrictions. All right, so now let's move on to the next area. And as you see, we are now in the area of the Baltic Sea. A P-8 Poseidon Maritime Patrol and surveillance aircraft is carrying out an odd path today and into this evening, covering areas such as right off the coast of Kaliningrad, earlier and over northern Poland, then doing circles over the Baltic Sea, which you see right here. Then doing circles, and then now it's doing circles off of the Estonia coast. Meanwhile, moving on to Qatar, it's being reported that Hamas has expressed some issues with Trump's Gaza peace plan, noting several points of contention. However, they do plan to officially respond next few days on an agreement or not with this peace plan. Trump has given them roughly 72 hours to respond, and for all intent and purposes, everyone, for the most part, suggesting, that they sign off on it. But until there's an official response, uh, you know, because there's been rumors that they're rejecting it. There's rumors that there's not an official response yet. I think it's really just getting out in the media what their contentious points are, hoping to be able to go back to the drawing board on some issues that this organization has. Now let's move on quickly to the West Bank. Now, for the West Bank, I just want to quickly let you know that Israel is currently removing mountainsides to create more living spaces for the Israelis. And this kind of comes on the heels of the annexation desires from the Israeli government into this area. And it looks like they're already taking bulldozers and clearing out some land for future housing developments. Now, let's move on to Venezuela. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about this region. So, it's been reported that some military gear, I would say really defensive gear of the military type, really it's like defensive weaponry, and apparently it's moved into the capital city. I would imagine it's heading towards the coast, but that was reported today, as well as what was reported today was some F-16 or some U.S. fighter jets were reported entering into the airspace, but that's according to the Latin Times. I've not been able to see any official statement from the U.S. military as it stands this evening. Now let's move on for an odd one at the Pentagon. So, this is called the Pentagon Pizza Report. With about 20 minutes left to close this evening, both the closest Domino's and Papa John's and the second closest Papa John's to the Pentagon are reporting very high traffic as of 11:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this evening. So it appears they're pretty busy tonight, and usually that is a tall tale sign of well, what could be some military activity here in the very near future. So, moving on. So, this is the end of the visual test run along with some relevant news for October 2nd. Thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed this content, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel. As well as just a simple reminder, this was a visual test with some relevant news, but I just kind of put some in there so it wasn't a total waste of the viewer's time. However, I'm more interested in knowing what you thought of the visual aspect, as noted at the beginning of this video. Um, Really, what I'm aiming to do is provide a little bit more of a realistic visual. Fortunately, I have a very good computer system, as well as a, not to brag or anything, but I do have a 4070 Ti Super. So I do have the capability to display this stuff um, in a way that could benefit you, the viewer. So, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and conclude this visual test. And again, please leave a comment below if you found it more visually appealing and engaging, and let me know what you didn't like. Again, the verbiage tonight. That was just thrown together to give some context along with the visuals, so it wasn't a complete snore fest for you. Um, but the purpose, again, is for the visual and what your opinions are on that. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good rest of your night. Bye bye for now.